If you listen to the critics, if you listen to your own doubts and call them reasons, you may never find the drive to go back to school. But a little change in direction, a new perspective, and the right program may make your successful new path a reality. The Accelerated Degree Program at Albright College. Start your degree or complete your degree one night a week in as little as 2 years. Albright College. A different way of thinking.
Good evening, and welcome to the Albright Scholar for October 2017. My name is John Pankratz, and each month it's my privilege to welcome BCTV viewers and residents of Greater Reading to take a glimpse inside our learning community up here on North 13th Street, to look at the work being done by teachers and students, and to think a bit about its impact on all of us. Well, we're into the academic year with a vengeance. Students are studying hard for their midterms, and I've got a stack of papers that I need to grade after the show is over. I'm here with one of my closest colleagues, Dr. Carlos Dimas, Professor of History and Director of the Latin American Studies program at Albright. And I'm very, very glad to invite him to talk about his teaching, about his research, and about his work at the college. Carlos, welcome.
Thank you. Thank
you.
you.
It's great to have you here. You joined us last year.
Last year, yeah.
After teaching for a couple of years at a very fine university in Connecticut, Wesleyan College.
Yeah, I was there for 2 years. I was a Mellon postdoctoral fellow in Latin American Studies. It's a recurring program. They have it every 2 years. They bring in someone that does Latin American Studies and someone that does Native American Studies, sort of interdisciplinary, an anthropologist, sociologist, historian. My year was a historian and someone, Native American Studies, that came from a rhetoric department.
Okay,
so
interesting.
Really sort of a little bit of everything.
Interesting. But before that, you're an Angelino, right?
Yeah, born and raised Los Angeles, California, Southgate specifically, sort of southeast. I was born and raised there, and I did from undergrad through graduate school in Southern California.
Wow.
So Connecticut was something new, and Pennsylvania is something new.
It is something new.
Yeah.
Although, of course, Berks County is a center of Latino and Hispanic culture and settlement, and
it is.
And food.
Very much.
So we'll talk about all of that as well. You're teaching a really wide range of courses at Albright, aren't you?
Yeah, I teach what any Latin American historian would see sort of as a service ones. The modern Latin America survey course, one specific to our Latin American Studies program, which has seen growth since last year, which is Intro Latin American Studies. And then the other ones are, I would say, just my pet projects, the ones that very much built off of my personal interest.
That's really a nice thing about Albright. And that we're teaching what might be seen as standard surveys, but then our upper level courses really express who we are as researchers and scholars, and we convey our fascination to our students, and very often it's catching.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do that at other universities, and Albright is very much living that very liberal arts credo of exploration. And so I do that with my medical history class, medical history of Latin America, and also my environmental history of Latin American class.
Yeah. We'll go into each of those into some depth as well. Latin America is a huge chunk of geography. It's an awful lot for one person
just a bit
to try to cover, and yet you've had research experiences and living experiences in multiple corners of the Latin American world.
Yeah, Central America, where my family's from, Argentina. I've hopped over to Chile, done Uruguay, Peru.
And you have a Mexican connection as well.
I have a Mexican connection through my spouse, through my wife. And also where I'm from in LA is predominantly a Mexican community, so been a little bit of everywhere.
Yeah, and I think probably those multiple perspectives make their way into your teaching.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I was trained doing history of Argentina and medical. Yet right now I'm teaching history of Mexico class, and it's going really well. And I'm comfortable with it. I love it. My students are really engaged in it. They're really exploring what, we're trying to answer. How does Mexico come to fruition? And yeah, I think that's the really big payoff of doing something like Latin American history. You have to know a little bit about everywhere from Mexico all the way down to, like Tierra del Fuego.
Yeah, I think one of the great trends in history scholarship generally over the past 40, 50 years is comparative history, and the history of really, really broad regions. But at big universities, you have to sort of say, yes, I'm going to do comparative history and chart out a sort of project. I think at a small school like this, we inevitably become comparatists.
Yeah.
Because we have to cover a region, we have to talk about different kinds of societies, and then it becomes really fascinating to
Yeah, I think it also
that.
happens from really working thematically.
Yeah.
Environmental history.
It doesn't stop at national borders.
Yeah, no, exactly, and that's what I began my first class. We're discussing things that sort of defy national borders, also defy our concept of time. Environment moves at much different paces, and I think it's fun. I think it pushes you to be comfortable in a lot of different spaces, but it also really allows you to be creative, and I think the students really feed off of that. And my environmental class, for example, that went really well because it gave me that space to move. One week we're discussing Cuba, then the next week we moved down to the Brazilian rainforest.
Okay. So there's always something new.
Oh, there's always something new.
In a sense. And what sort of students did you have in the environmental history class?
I had predominantly a third and fourth years.
Okay.
A couple second years. A lot of environmental sciences, environmental studies majors, and a good amount of history majors as well. So students that came from the history side and then students that came from the more environmental studies side. And we have a really strong program here at Albright for environmental studies and also environmental science. And so they came in, and it's always interesting because they come in with a very unique skill set. And so they bring and contribute to that to the class, and then we sort of contribute from the humanities perspective. And it's more of a circular conversation as opposed to like a one-way, like I am lecturing. The students are allowed. I push my students to contribute in class, to bring their skills.
It's certainly one of the things that I really enjoy, the fact that I don't have simply history majors in upper level courses, but I have students in chemistry, I have students in sociology, I have students in criminology, English majors, and it becomes a really rich mix.
Yeah, I mean, that's a liberal arts college allows you to be a math major and a theater major, a history major and a chemistry major, if you want, and really sort of seeing where they intersect. And as you go along, you start realizing how much they intersect and how much your history degree contributes to your chemistry and your chemistry to your history.
Yeah, we actually do have a dual major in chemistry and history. I know your environmental interest was one of the things that really attracted us to you as a researcher and teacher. Your predecessor in the position, Betsy Kitty, who died way too soon a couple years ago, her second book project was on the Rio San Francisco in Brazil. And she had traveled to Brazil with David Osgood in our environmental science department, and so he was already sort of plugged into Latin America. He was working on his Spanish. He'd taken classes down there as well. And so the fact that you would sort of resupply that expertise and that environmental perspective has been really helpful for their program.
I came into environmental history around the middle of the dissertation. I had taken a seminar in grad school and the person there that did environmental did Southeast Asia. So then I started taking a lot of Southeast Asia seminars, and I started really seeing environment in a lot of questions. And I do medical history, and early, even as late as the late 1800s and the early 1900s, when they would speak medically, they would also be speaking environmentally.
Right.
So I saw how deeply connected environmental questions and medical questions were tied. So that really got me into it. And so as I started moving forward, I really started, the second half of the dissertation became really strongly environmental. And then now the book that's in the process is even more environmental than the dissertation was.
Yeah.
I'm happy about that.
That's great, but that's the evolution of your dissertation, right?
Yeah.
And you've published articles out of that scholarship, and now it's taking book form.
Yeah, now it's taking book form. I did two articles. One's already out, Journal of Latin American Studies, and then the other one, I've already submitted it. It's been accepted. Right now, it's going through the type. They're setting up the production of it. And that's with other historians that I've worked with at the Latin American Studies Conference. And so we had a panel, and we thought, we should do an edited volume out of this. And it's on rural health in Latin America.
Oh, okay.
And their environment also plays a role.
Sure.
Geography.
Is that strongly comparative as well?
It's not so much. That one's not so much comparative.
Okay.
That one is yeah, you can. It is.
There are different parts of rural Latin America.
It's comparative urban and rural.
Okay.
Yeah, the central argument is that popular medicine with pre-Columbian and then colonial roots was able to really thrive in rural northwestern Argentina because the majority of public health infrastructure in the area was in urban settings. So the rural was always sort of left to its own, and people break their arms, people get sick, people feel bad, animals get sick, they get hurt, people respond to them.
Right, and you prescribe treatments that are time-honored.
Time-honored.
And respected and believed in, and that's part of the battle.
One thing I always tell my students, one of the things I open is, what do you do when you have a sore throat? And they say, well, I take tea. Well, who told you to drink tea and honey?
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Where did you learn that?
Right. It wasn't prescribed at Johns Hopkins Hospital.
Yeah, exactly. It was, and they always there's always that moment and so usually in the back oh wow, and just sort of
they didn't realize that they were living the folkloric life.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. Well, it's a subject matter that allows people to have a lot of aha moments as well.
Yeah, so the development of medicine, development of over-the-counter, the development of the hospital as a healing but also medical educational space as opposed to a charity, early concepts of sort of interchangeability of sickness and poverty and how that slowly went away. These are all things that, we sort of assume have always been.
Right.
And then when we look back, it's no, at one point this was cutting edge. This was a breakthrough.
Yeah, in so many ways, the late 20th century was an atypical moment in history. I teach an environmental history book called Something New Under the Sun, an environmental history of the 20th century by John McNeill down at Georgetown. Really a great book. And he says, our problem is that those of us my age at least lived through the second half of the 20th century, and it was the weirdest, strangest, most different moment in history, and for us it's normal. So it really doesn't describe what came before, and it probably doesn't describe what's going to be coming down the pike. Either. The history of medicine is sort of a thing at Albright, right? We have a new major in public health. And our colleagues in political science, Irene Langren, and our colleague in history, Hilary Aquino, are specialists in that field as well. So adding that different region and different periodization in the history of medicine, I think really enriches that.
Yeah, I had a lot of public health majors.
Okay.
That they had taken courses with Irene, they had taken courses with Hilary, and they really became interested.
Yeah.
And there's so many overlap. I mean, we could just look at something like the Rockefeller Foundation.
Oh, sure.
And that's, the Rockefeller Foundation, New York, begins in the Deep South with hookworm disease, then jumps to Puerto Rico, and then goes into Latin America. But at the same time, they're in India, for instance, they're in Europe, they're in Africa, both for public health, agriculture, cultural studies, and sort of global South development. And, you could have a class just on that, and sort of global health via Rockefeller Foundation.
You literally could, couldn't
Yeah,
you?
you literally could.
Yeah, because that money went everywhere, and that agenda went to lots of places.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, just the history of corn via the Rockefeller Foundation will take you to Colombia, Central America, Mexico, India, and so on. It's it's a really interesting sort of way of going about that.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of teaching materials, do you teach any texts in Spanish, or are there good, up-to-date works in translation or written in English, in terms of, I guess, primary sources as well as secondary sources?
For primary sources, there's a lot. Duke has released the Reader series, and
right.
there's one, there's the Mexico Reader, the Dominican Reader, the Argentina Reader, and now they've branched into other areas of the Mexico City Reader, the Buenos Aires Reader, and so on. And those are all, they work really well because they go chronologically, but also thematically, and they always begin with sort of an opening, sort of setting out the context,
Okay.
and then it goes into it. And there's a lot of stuff. I mean, that's the interesting part of medical history. Sometimes you're looking at non-medical stuff,
Right.
and realize its connection to medicine. With this idea of the medical humanities and so on, and that is a great resource. And with the internet,
Yeah.
there's tons of stuff. I mean, I believe it's George Mason. They have a collection of primary sources, and you can do an entire world history via gender.
Oh, wow.
And there's so much stuff out there, both and it really gives students a chance to sort of do the craft of history in in person and on the fly.
Right.
So there's tons of stuff. Good amount of secondary sources and so on. So, yeah.
Great. I know not everybody's a history major, and we keep.
Well, they should be.
They certainly should study history.
Yeah, there you go.
Because, as you said, the craft of history, learning how to investigate, learning how to synthesize, learning how to think about relationships, that is good for any field of study or any profession.
Oh yeah, no, being able to sort of thinking critically, being able to read something and understand how it gives you a piece of a bigger picture, and then connect that, sort of like like a puzzle, but a puzzle missing pieces. And if you get enough, you can sort of already make out that picture,
Right.
so to speak. And I think it's great skills. And I always tell my classes, these are skills that you're going to take with you beyond your time here at Albright.
Right. I think when life becomes confusing, and it almost certainly will,
Yeah.
being able to work with those puzzles
Yeah.
is really precious. It's something that you value more and more. Well, you're teaching Latin American history, Latin American studies in a county in Pennsylvania that is increasingly a Latino county.
Yeah.
Does that local environment impact your teaching or potential courses in the future, or your students?
Yeah, it definitely does. I've gone through that through sort of the 13th and Union partnership that we have with the 13th and Union School.
Right. Just down there.
Through Amera Vista, I forget the exact department.
It's an AmeriCorps project?
There we go, AmeriCorps project. And that is, what we do with that is we teach Latin American history, culture to their second and third graders. First, second, and third graders. This past year, we did 4. We're going to continue doing 4, and each week we focus on one country or one region. El Salvador, Mexico, Dominican Republic, and just little things like the flag and sort of telling them the colors of the flag, why the flag is a certain color, music, types of music, where these musics have their origin, the musical instrument, and sort of really expose them to Latin America through that. A lot of students at 13th and Union are first generation.
Right.
There were students, the parents are from Puerto Rico, from Dominican Republic, from Mexico, from Central America, from Peru, and it really allowed them to learn a little history about their parents. And many, we would always have these handouts that they would color using coloring books from those countries. Professor Karen Yogan really helped out with those things, and a lot of them took them home. And we sort of did that, and we would always give them extras if they had siblings.
Right.
So they were, coloring Machu Picchu, coloring Colonial Santo Domingo, and then taking that back. And a lot of them would say, "Oh, my mom was telling me about this," or
"Oh, good."
And it's like, "Oh, that, I enjoyed that a lot."
That's so important to have parents interested in what's going on in school and potentially learning from it, but also reinforcing those lessons or adding to them.
Yeah, and Reading, just it's the perfect space, 80%, I believe, somewhere between mid-70s and 80%.
Certainly for school age.
Students, and there's a lot of Albright students working at 13th and Union in a variety of different places.
Great, so they're helping with these lessons.
Yeah, they're helping with these lessons. So it's me and this last, it was me and 2 students. And they working hands-on. They were both already interested in going into elementary education.
Okay.
So for them, it was just like the perfect sort of opportunity and space to sort of teach, the Latin American studies.
And is there a bilingual element to the teaching as well?
Yes. Yes, we do a lot of words. Well, not even bilingual, but for instance, when we refer to El Salvador, we'll say, the other is Cuscatlan, from indigenous languages, and sort of incorporating little things like that, and a lot of repetition, Cuscatlan, breaking down the word, and so on, and they really enjoy that. They really enjoy that,
And becoming aware of that.
Becoming aware.
Is so useful going forward, and language
Mm.
learning and developing and everything. 7 and 8-year-olds are really great to teach.
Yeah, there's so much enthusiasm. Yeah, so much enthusiasm, and you ask a question, and those arms dart up.
Yeah.
Everyone has an answer. Yeah. And so it's nice when they raise a hand and then they forget their answer.
Right. Yeah, they're so eager to please and to participate and be counted. But you're encountering a similar level of enthusiasm at Albright, or at least some enthusiasm?
So I would say equal. There's a lot of students that are really interested in Latin America, Latin American culture, Latin American history, from a variety of different perspectives.
Right.
We have, Albright in Costa Rica program, Albright in Ecuador program, Albright in Cuba this coming summer.
That's
so
right.
Albright is very connected to Latin America.
Historically, there's been that interest, and I think students are certainly benefiting from that. You're teaching Latin American Studies courses, but they're also being taught in several other departments as well, right?
Yeah, we have in environmental sciences and environmental studies. There's a strong presence of Latin American aspects in political science and also in sociology. So
and there's in modern foreign languages.
And modern foreign languages,
in terms of literature and culture.
That in itself, we're really connected at the hip there, and a lot of students come from the Spanish department and come interested in Latin American history to supplement the the literature side of things.
Right.
And so.
And students spending time on their own. I know a number of students spent time in Costa Rica at the research station there. Casey Goshorn spent a semester in Chile.
Yeah, no, my environmental history one had a lot of people that took the class after they had been in Ecuador.
Oh, okay.
They had been in Ecuador.
And of course, that's a long-standing project of Brian Jennings in their sociology department.
And they'll be going down this
Cuenca.
interim. Yeah, they'll be going down this interim again. So they went there, sort of got really excited about Latin America, came back to Albright. We had, and the opportunity was there, and they just said, yeah, I want to learn about the history, but also environmentally. And I made sure to include Ecuador and the Andean region, just to, that way they could like, oh yes, I remember that.
And they could show you their pictures.
Yeah, no, they were very eager to show the pictures. Yeah.
Great. Well, things seem to be going exceedingly well.
Yeah, exceedingly well. Yeah. I cannot complain.
And you're enjoying the Reading environment as well?
Yes, we are. There's a lot to do here. There's a big Hispanic Latino community, so a lot of the foods and groceries and things that we cook at home, day by day, are readily available. This Sunday we had tamales for breakfast, and we had tacos al pastor for dinner, and we got our ensalada de nopales. So, in that sense, not much has changed from back home to here.
Right. Yeah. No, it's Berks County has always been a great source of food, but now we have some extra ingredients. And, really high quality and fabulous flavors as well.
Yeah, and our pupuseria just opened, so.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So that's comfort food.
Yeah, no, definitely. That is very comfort food. Not the healthiest, but
but that's okay. That's okay. Well, walking across the street to 13th and Union gives you some exercises as well. And you're a soccer fan?
Oh yes, very big soccer fan. LA Galaxy. Grew up going to the stadium, going to the games with my dad and my dad and my mom and my dad's friends, and then I started going on my own. Joined a support group, and then I started going with my son. Yeah. And so very, very, although they're not doing well this year, but
And you've seen a few Albright soccer games as well.
I've seen a few Albright soccer games. I've seen a couple Reading United games, and I've seen a couple local games as well, New York games as well. So,
okay.
Yeah. All right. Great.
Well, good. Well, we could probably go on for another half an hour.
Yeah, easily.
But my producer is signaling to me that our time is at an end. But I really appreciate your coming on the show and sharing with our viewers the kind of interesting work that you're doing and showing that Latin American history is just thriving now at Albright. So
I'm happy to be part of it.
Yeah, we're grateful.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Carlos.
Oh, no, thank you.
Thank you as well for joining us on the Albright Scholar. We'll be back in the month of November when I believe my guest will be the new president of Albright, Dr. Jacqueline Fetro, and we're looking forward to that conversation as well. We'll see you then. Good night.
If you listen to the critics, if you listen to your own doubts and call them reasons, you may never find the drive to go back to school. But a little change in direction, a new perspective, and the right program may make your successful new path a reality. The Accelerated Degree Program at Albright College. Start your degree or complete your degree one night a week in as little as 2 years. Albright College, a different way of thinking.